Hello there, and welcome to GG Replay, your GG Replay for Monday, November 1st. Hey, we made it to November, everyone. 2021. GG Replay is, of course, your Monday, Wednesday, Friday podcast where we break down the latest in gaming news, hosted by us, the Goodnight Groofs, a place for games and a place for goofs. Still workshopping the slogan here. I'm also workshopping my mustache. I don't know if anyone's watching on YouTube right now. I currently have shaved the old beard, and I'm rocking a creepy mustache for Movember perhaps. I'm not doing any charity stuff, although I probably should. But that's what we got going on right
It's
now.
awareness.
I'm, of course, yeah, awareness. Just bringing it out. I'm saying, hey, I'm not doing anything for charity because it would give me money, but you know go look for your friends who are and give them money. I'm Paul, of course. I'm joined, as always, by Matt. Halloween is done. Did you have a great Halloween, my friend?
It's fine. We watched some scary movies, and we had literally one trick-or-treater come by, and so that's kind of how it was. It's fine. It is what it is. I look forward to the day where I'm living in a house and have, in a neighborhood with a bunch of kids coming around. You can just be passing out candy for hours. I love doing that, and I look forward to the day when I can actually do that again.
I love it when you're in suburbia in a house and you can do it. I love that. Sounds like a good time.
Yeah.
Rachel and I, we really decked the house out, and we were that house on
That's
the court.
awesome.
Everyone was going by, and people were taking pictures of our setup. It wasn't even that good. It was fine. It was solid. We had 3 little set pieces, a little graveyard. We had some cutesy stuff, but some scary stuff, but it was nothing crazy. But man, oh man, just a lot of people don't do tons of Halloween stuff around here, or they put up like 2 or 3 things. So the fact that we had like kind of a cohesive setup got a lot of hype on our house, and we had the most trick-or-treaters we've had in years. Even before we lived here, I was hearing from all that it has been like at least 5 years since we've had this many. We had about, I don't know, probably 60 kids or something like that, which is pretty good. So we sat outside on the porch and just handed out candy, and it was a great time. So
Paul, I don't want to sound like an old grump, but I don't know if the times have actually just changed, or if it was me. Maybe you and I kind of both grew up in small towns, and I wonder if maybe people just go a little bit harder for Halloween in small towns, or if it's really just a product of, over the last 20 years, times have changed. I don't know.
I think it might be different. I'm not 100% sure, but I really feel like Halloween is quieter. I also noticed a lot of kids skipping houses. That was the thing. I was talking to my neighbor, and he was saying, like, wasn't that the rule? If you have the light on, you're doing candy, and if you don't, you're not. But there were a bunch of houses that had the light on, but they weren't giving out candy, and a bunch of houses that had the lights, they had lights on. People were just skipping the houses unless they had like decorations, and I was kind of thinking, like, what is the convention falling apart here? What's going on? And maybe I'm just a grump, and maybe I'm also misremembering that I was a kid in the 90s, and I was a kid, so I don't really remember. But I feel like I remember getting, like, we were out a reasonable amount of time, and every house was like handing me candy. I had like 2 pillowcases worth. I had to stop at home, go back out, get another pillowcase.
Yeah.
And I was just sneaking into people's houses, stealing their pillowcases, filling them with candy from their, the fridge and the cupboards in their house. This is like not a Halloween thing. This was like in February. No, but yeah, I feel like I used to get a lot of candy, and I feel like I saw a lot of kids here with like little pails of candy, and then that was it. And I was thinking, like, I guess so, like, what's happening? But anyway, that's just us being cranky old.
Well, it bothers me that a lot of kids aren't able to have the same experience that we had, because it was so fun.
I find some places, though. There are places that do it. There's a small town north of where I used to live, and I went there. It's kind of where a lot of the rich kids live too. And I went there, and like huge packs of kids, all these young families. The whole place is full of them. Everyone was the right age to go out. It wasn't just like babies and stuff. And everywhere, it's just kids everywhere. And then I went back to my subdivision. It was kind of like a lot of people in my subdivision are aging out. A lot of like older boomers who are like holding onto their houses. I think this year it's only started building up more because because the housing prices are so high here. A lot of boomers are like kind of cashing out and getting out of here, and then younger families are coming in. So I think that's why we're starting to see a few more kids around where I live. So
all right, well, hopefully things turn the corner.
Hopefully things turn the corner. But you know what? This is not a Halloween podcast. This is a gaming podcast, and we have some gaming stuff to talk about for everyone out there. Just a reminder before we get right into the stories here, if you come across any necessary corrections in today's episode, send them to ggreplayshow@gmail.com or head down to the YouTube comments below so we can address them in the next episode. You might say, Paul's not supposed to have a mustache. That's a correction. That's a really fair correction. All right, Matt, the reviews are in. There's actually just one review today for a game that I'm pretty interested in called Unpacking. It's a narrative puzzle game. It's day one on Game Pass, which is pretty cool on PC, console, and cloud, and it's also out on most other platforms you can find it. It's out tomorrow, of course. It got an 83 on OpenCritic. It's a game. It's a nice, colorful, nice looking, clean, cartoony game where you unpack in different spaces when you're moving throughout your life. There is a narrative built to it of like kind of moving to different places. I tried to watch bits of reviews. I didn't want to get too spoiled because this actually is something I think I'm going to play. But it does seem like, as you go through your life, certain things change. You go to different places. Some of your hobbies might change, and that's reflected in the packing. The story of your life is kind of told through your unpacking and your moving, which is, I think, a really unique take to have in a game like this. Nat, what's your take on this? Does this seem like something you would try, or does this seem like, something that's worth an 83?
I think this game is on mobile, and if it is, that's where I would play it. I don't think I would personally play this anywhere else. Mobile's where I go for my puzzle games, and I'm not playing puzzle games on console or on PC. It's just not my thing. But this game looks like a really relaxing experience for a lot of people. I love that it's a puzzle game with a little bit of a storyline to it. The art is really good, and you said the word clean. I really do get that impression with this game.
Edges are very clean. Like it's got a bright, colorful thing, but I don't want to say realistic too. Like it's got colorful, cartoony kind of colors.
Yeah.
But within that, it's got clean edges that kind of lend this sort of realism to it. It's a nice art style.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are gonna really like this game. And 83, obviously that is the case amongst the critics. So yeah, if you're into puzzle games, and especially puzzle games with a little bit of story, I would go check it out.
I like a puzzle game with a little bit of story. Talk about like Donut County kind of thing.
Yeah.
That was fun. Other stuff, again, stuff that's, I won't say free, stuff that's included on Game Pass. It's always a winner in my books. These nice little indies that I probably wouldn't pay a lot of money for just because it's not necessarily my thing. But I'm bored on a weekend. I might give a couple hours to this and beat it and have a good time. I will say, Matt, it is not on mobile.
Oh, okay.
It is on Steam, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch. They're releasing on Switch, which I think is a good platform for it. Also, it does have cloud, so you can play it on mobile on like cloud, Xbox Cloud. So and it has touch controls. It has touch controls built in. So, and it's the kind of game I think that xCloud would work really well for because the latency and stuff isn't super noticeable because it's just like drag and drop. So that might be a cool way to experience that if you're a Game Pass subscriber.
That might be a good way for me to try that.
Yeah. Might be. It's if you have to get Game Pass back, but
I think my sub still lasts for another week or two. So
we've got a little bit left. All right. Let's talk about some stories. Speaking about Microsoft, we had a little bit of story involving Microsoft today. Sega and Microsoft are exploring a strategic alliance to create new strategic titles for Sega and establish a next generation development environment. A lot of PR speak in this entire thing. I kind of left it like that because that is the bulk of this article is really hard to understand 100%. I'll quote something here, which is what they say. This proposed alliance represents Sega looking ahead and by working with Microsoft to anticipate such trends as they accelerate further in future. The goal is to optimize development processes and continue to bring high quality experiences to players using Azure cloud technologies. Basically, the idea here, I think, is that Sega wants to work with Microsoft to go beyond arcade, to go beyond some other stuff and focus more on cloud. For their next games. Now, we had this thing in May where Sega came out and said they're working on a super game, which their terminology they're using is like IP development. Like it's all of this business stuff. Like they're like, oh yeah, you want to like this character? Well, we're going to call it IP development. Was it online, integrated, persistent? There's all these like words they're using. Basically, it really has MMO feels to me. I even saw some things in some of the other articles talking where Sega stuff where it says like a massive what was it? It said massively multiplayer in some way, but it was like they couched the words in weird systems. So yeah, this could probably be linked to that in the sense that they really made a point of saying that this super game thing is going to be in the next 5 years. It's going to go beyond their normal arcade pachinko Japanese thing and be like a worldwide thing.
Okay.
And I guess cloud is going to be the way they might want to deliver that. Now, cloud's an interesting thought because you can think of that stuff like what Player Unknown, that guy, when he was talking about that new game that he was working on, talking about how they can like make it persistently build the world and make it like a massive thing. I'm getting that kind of feel maybe out of this, that they can use cloud to kind of like offload huge assets on to the servers and like port them to you or something. I probably sound like an idiot, but Matt, does this sound like anything interesting to you here?
When I read this, I just think that this is going to be some shitty Fantasy Star online game.
Yeah,
I
it
think
is.
that's what it's going to end up being. I mean,
Maybe like a Total War thing, people were saying.
that would be
Maybe.
interesting.
Yeah.
Sega's an interesting company right now because they just are so hit and miss. Like you look at the Yakuza games, people love those, and now you have the spin-off series with that. But then you also have like Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania, and you have Sonic, and you have Phantasy Star, which I don't think is that great. Like Phantasy Star Online
Yep.
2 New Genesis, it's not even a true MMO. It's just
Yep.
really like an online co-op RPG. I don't think it's that great. They don't have a lot of interesting things going on anymore. And so
Yeah.
I don't really know if this intrigues me at all. I have very little faith outside of the Yakuza series that Sega can really deliver anything that I'm going to personally enjoy. So, I mean, good for Sega to be in with the Microsoft of the world,
Yeah.
but this doesn't really excite me that much. What about you?
It really feels like something that's being drafted. Now, obviously, this is the documents from a corporate, business side. This isn't them coming out and saying, "Hey, gamers, get excited." They're not saying that. But on the flip side, I still feel like the fact that we're seeing this first and we're seeing like behind the screen a little bit, and they're being really open about talking about like IP development and all this kind of stuff. It really makes me feel like I'm being gamed. Like it really makes me feel like they're going, "Hey, we're going to create this big thing, and we're going to maximize the profits of cartoon characters." Like it's very like just make something fun and like likable and like a cool character and a cool world and like have passion in the games. And it feels they have like a spreadsheet that like is telling them exactly the right buzzwords that are going to make the
Right.
perfect game, and that's going to end up being a piece of shit. I feel like I just yeah, I don't 100% know. I don't like being told like we're going to develop a new IP and it's going to win you over. Like, don't tell me that. Just make it.
Yeah, that's
I don't
always
know.
weird.
That's
I
weird.
mean, maybe it's the Sonic MMO.
Oh
Create your own
God.
hedgehog.
Well, no, there wasn't a Sonic MMO, but there was the Create Your Own Hedgehog. That was in one of the
Oh,
games.
really?
Yeah, Donkey played it and kept. I remember that's all I've seen. And there's a way you can create your own hedgehog and you can make him look so bad, really bad.
That's the only way to
So
do
yeah.
it, though.
Oh yeah, 100%. Or you can make that one from the meme, the Nothing Personnel Kid one as well. I don't remember what the actual
But can
hedgehog's
you
name
make
was.
Sonic.exe?
I'm sure you can. I like how you're name dropping Sonic.exe. You just heard about it. You just found out. All right, let's move on. Talking about Red Dead Redemption Remaster. Woohoo, might be in the works. Rockstar Magazine is reporting. There's a Rockstar Magazine? Is this an official magazine?
There are like outlets and podcasts that are dedicated to just like GTA and Rockstar stuff.
Wow.
Like
Maybe we're
that
barking up
exists.
the wrong tree. We should make a. They have a magazine. Do they publish a physical magazine?
I
This
doubt
is
it.
this is fascinating to me. Rockstar Magazine is reporting that a remaster for Red Dead Redemption is in the works, and that will be similar to the GTA trilogy remaster. That's interesting because I feel like it's not nearly as old, so it's weird
Yeah.
to imagine how they're saying similar. We've talked about this before.
Yeah,
We've
we
been
have.
talking about this Red Dead Remaster, and we've been kind of saying, hey, if Red Dead Remaster gets made, that'll probably, that's something we're excited for, especially you, Matt, being someone who wanted to play that. But what the heck? Does this seem like good enough? Is this what we wanted? Like what are they gonna do? Put like Red Dead Redemption 2 controls on it and like up some of the textures? It makes sense on San Andreas or something, but a game that came out like, just over 10 years ago, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, months ago on GG Replay, we talked about Rockstar's next potential projects, and I said I think a Red Dead Redemption remaster is going to be one of their next things that they do. It just makes so much sense because in Red Dead Redemption 2, you already have the original areas, many of the original areas from the first game built in that engine. So I think I even said like just create the like just add the NPCs, add some of the story triggers. You can use the dialogue from the first game. Like
Yeah,
it really wouldn't be that. Like it would be a project, obviously, but like you already have so much of it built. It really wouldn't be. It's not like creating a brand new game, right? So
right.
I
And they're
just
certainly not doing a whole lot else right now, I feel like. So
yeah. Aside from GTA Online, right? So I
yeah.
think it's just an easy money grab thing that they could do. They could also at the same time actually be something that people would like and that people would like to play. I am one of those people who the original Red Dead came out. It's just one of those things that passed me by. I tried to
Yep.
play it right before Red Dead 2 came out. I played it a little bit before that, just kind of at a friend's house, so I never got the chance to like dig into it. But then, yeah, I tried to play it again right before Red Dead 2 came out, and I was just like, I'm just gonna wait for Red Dead 2. It was a little outdated graphically, controls felt a little outdated, and I was just like,
Yep.
I mean, I can wait. Red Dead 2 comes out in a couple months. It's a prequel anyway, so whatever, right? So
Yeah.
I would be excited to play this. I really would. I would like this, as long as it's well done. But again, I think it's just an easy thing for them to go do, so they should do it.
Yeah. I agree. At least if we're just gonna do like a small update like that, just do it and get it out there. That sounds awesome. I guess they obviously want to ride on high on this GTA thing for a while, as opposed to releasing them too simple, too close to each other. And then it would just be like everyone's like, "Oh, is this just a remaster studio? What's going on over here?" So I don't know, but yeah, I'm excited. It also passed me by. I also played it at a friend's house, and that was cool. But I feel like I didn't really get to go into the story. We just went to the bar and started. We saved quick, and then like went and killed everyone in the town and tried to see if we
Yeah.
could survive, and just fucked around on the horse and stuff. I definitely didn't like get into the story, but I know it is obviously good. But yeah, I think updated controls and some updated textures and resolutions and all the stuff that they're doing with GTA. Yeah, sure, do it. I'll play it. I might actually play it in that scenario. So pretty
Quick
cool.
note before we move on: as part of the same report, Chris from Rockstar Magazine was saying that GTA 6 is in development hell, apparently. So, which I'm not too surprised about. I mean, it's been forever. We haven't heard anything about
Yeah.
it. So, I can imagine that they're trying to find ways to make this live up to GTA 5 and to make it something that can work online, but also maybe have some sort of single player experience. But he specifically mentioned the exit of Dan Houser being a major factor in why GTA 6 is kind of off the rails, which is something that we also talked about a few months ago.
I think it's worth mentioning too that I feel like there's like two factions. Maybe there were two factions. One saying, "Hey, let's milk this for online. Fuck the story." And maybe people who are saying, "Hey, no, the story's important. We need to focus on that too." And then Dan Houser was probably in that faction. And then now Hauser's gone. Maybe they've lost a lot of that, waiting there, and there's a lot going on. So, I mean, it's just speculation, but yeah, I think it's really hard to follow up on a game that was so well loved critically for the story, but so well loved, en masse in the amount of money they made for online, and
Yeah.
trying to balance those things out for a sequel, especially in a future where all the games are supposed to be these like live service games that last 10 years. Tough, tough move. All right, let's move on to something that definitely won't be lasting 10 years. In fact, it won't be lasting 2 weeks because Fortnite is shutting down in China. Not shutting down, don't worry. I almost scared everyone. Fortnite shutting down in China on November 15th. Now, no reasons were given, but it is assumed to be related to the stricter gaming regulations for children. We talked about that a little bit before, but obviously there's all the rules now about certain nights of the week. It's only like Saturday or Sunday. You have to you only play for like 3 hours during the weekend or something. There's a whole thing after a certain time of night. Now, the game was already quite different in China, surprisingly so in some ways and not in others. Non-surprisingly, there's no skulls. That's always something. They removed a lot of those references. They put skins on things. There was also a lot of areas of the game that were less violent or less physically, obviously violent. But also, interestingly, there were no microtransactions in the game in China, which obviously makes sense because they're trying to work on like, keeping kids from like getting addicted and gambling and that kind of stuff. But also kind of sounds cool. Free for Fortnite's a free game. Also, no microtransactions. Can I get skins for free, or am I just not getting skins? Because that's let's talk, guys. So, kind of an interesting thing. I saw some people saying too that it could just be that the game's just overall not very popular maybe in China. I saw some stuff about that this is kind of more, related possibly to just it never really took off. Some people talking about Tencent. Matt, I know you had something you were thinking about
Mm.
that.
Yeah, overall, I guess it kind of seems weird to me, just considering that Tencent owns so much of Epic. But from what I've read, apparently Tencent went with PUBG. That's the game that they backed to be the big battle royale game in China. And so there was no room for Fortnite to also exist alongside that, which I don't know if that's really the case or not, or if they just didn't really
Yeah.
put as much effort into it, because I feel like you could have found a way to make it work. I mean, I'm not too surprised about this. You're seeing a lot of companies just pulling out of China. Like LinkedIn, I think,
Yep.
was the last American social media company that just pulled out. They're like, we're not like it's just it becomes a headache to have to deal with all the different censorship things
Yep.
and changing your platform just to exist in the other region. You have to
Right.
decide if it's worth it or not.
And games that only make money on microtransactions obviously aren't going to do well in a company that's banning microtransactions. Of course,
Yeah.
also, it's like, oh, at least they'll get some playtime. Oh, no, kids can only play like, 2 hours a week. Regardless of whether or not that's good or bad, it's obviously bad for the gaming companies. So it makes sense why they might want to pull it out of that country because it's a lot of maybe a waste of time or development, especially when, again, they have to develop a different version of the game that has different skins and different
Hmm.
skulls and different things. So at that point, it's like, are we really making money here? No, this is a lot of work. We're out. So I think it all makes kind of some sense. I think it is also interesting to all of the people who all get kind of butthurt all the time, going like, oh, Tencent owns everything. Tencent is controlling Epic. Maybe not, right? Because it could be in favor. It might be the right thing for Tencent because they might be backing PUBG here, like you were saying, Matt. But also maybe Tencent just doesn't have the sway that we think, and it's not necessarily about them. Maybe it's just about Epic. Epic might have more autonomy than I think some people like to scream China a lot on some of these things, but not always necessarily the case. So
I
yeah,
have to wonder if there's a possibility that Tencent starts because of all the new restrictions that are coming along with gaming in China. I have to wonder if Tencent is going to start to look to sell off some of their gaming enterprises and start to get into other businesses.
maybe that's a good question. We'll have to keep an eye on that. I mean, they definitely have some other holdings and stuff for
They
sure,
have
but
a
yeah,
ton,
gaming is
yeah.
a bread and butter. I mean, gaming's a huge, huge part. So something interesting to consider. All right. Well, you know what? Fortnite is going to be closing soon. If you wanted to have some fun during gaming time in China last weekend, you couldn't play Roblox, that's for sure, because Roblox was out all weekend. Started at 7 p.m. on Thursday, and it wasn't fixed until Sunday evening, Halloween. You finally got Roblox out, and then your mom's saying, you got to go trick or treating. Little cousins and nephews and children everywhere were all very sad this weekend that they couldn't go play. I don't remember. I'm trying to remember one of the funny games, but anyway, it doesn't matter. They couldn't spend all their parents' credit card money. Chipotle is also giving away $1 million worth of free burritos on Roblox as a Halloween event in the game. Now, here's something. The experience for that went live at 6:30 p.m. Eastern on October 28th, Thursday, just before the widespread Roblox outage began. So a lot of people were, conspiracy theorists. Kids couldn't get on Roblox. They went to Reddit instead, and they wanted to have some conspiracies about it. Chipotle is causing the problems. It's Chipotle's fault. Some people thought maybe it was hackers. Roblox has made many. They've issued a few different marketing points on this or news releases on this, saying the issue is not external and it does not have to do with Chipotle. Well, they didn't say Chipotle, but they said any ongoing events or experiences or like brand deals or something has nothing to do with that.
That's funny.
So they said that, yeah, they spent a couple days going like, we found the issue, we pinpointed it, and it's somewhere in the code, and we're gonna fix it on our end. And I just think it's really funny because it really, really feels like it has something to do with this Chipotle thing. Like, why not? 6:30, and then a half hour after it launches, like Roblox goes down for like 4 days. I don't know why. I don't know how it would, but I feel like at the very least, some way they coded the Chipotle thing or something, like fucked it up. Maybe a lot of people thought maybe it was just they got slammed more because people were like rushing to Roblox
Yeah.
to get the free burritos. I don't know. It's a weird story. It was a weird weekend for Roblox.
The whole thing is hilarious, but at the same time, I feel bad for the kids who couldn't play their game all weekend. Like
I
that
know.
sucks.
I know, as someone who was a kid playing games all weekend, yeah, it definitely would have been a huge bummer if, like, per se, when we were kids, and like World of Warcraft, went down or something for the weekend. We're all gonna go on and play together. That would have sucked if that were down all weekend. So yeah, it's a bummer.
But imagine all
Uh,
the playground stories that'll come out of this.
oh, definitely. Kids will be like talking about how they were able to get on Roblox even though it was banned, and they went to like a weird, scary part, and all of a sudden there was
Yeah.
like a clown there, and
Mm.
I don't know. I'm just imagining what probably the weird shit I would have said as a kid. All right. Well, that's a funny story. Hopefully maybe they'll start giving away more free burritos as a penance to all those hungry, sad children out there. All right. Let's move on a little bit here. Talking about id Software is hiring for a long-running, iconic action FPS. I always love getting news from like hiring posts. It's really funny because everyone just like there's no information, but
Complete
just pure
speculation.
excitement. Yeah, they mentioned that the job is for, quote, AAA quality sci-fi and fantasy environmental vistas and skyboxes, end quote. Pretty cool. Quake? Is it Quake? I feel like it's Quake. My thought is Quake. Just because, I don't know, sci-fi, fantasy, long-running FPS. We've gotten, new Dooms. We've gotten new Wolfensteins. We've gotten new stuff from it. But we have not gotten a new Quake in like a million years. And we just had the Quake one like remaster
Right.
shadow dropped just a few weeks ago, a month ago, something like that. And people, I think it was well received. It got really great reviews on review platforms, and I think that was kind of them testing the waters for maybe a Quake redo. Matt, what's your take on this? Pure speculation, throwing it out to the wind. What do you think?
It's probably Quake or something Doom related. Like that's probably the answer, especially when you talk about sci-fi and fantasy. But I will say, Wolfenstein has a lot of sci-fi in it. There's fantasy, alternate history aspects to that. I think
Yep.
it could potentially be a Wolfenstein game. You have to think about this. So Machine Games is going to be working on the Indiana Jones game.
Mhm.
They're a relatively small studio. I would say they are on the small side for a level of the studio that they are. Only about 50 employees. It would be really hard for them to be both working on an Indiana Jones game and a Wolfenstein game at the same time. Now,
Yep.
they were able to pump out Wolfenstein games and then do like some quick DLCs and like sort of like side quels, we'll call it, like smaller games alongside them. But I don't think that you can do a full-on Wolfenstein and a full-on Indiana Jones game. So I think it's possible that id is going to get Wolfenstein for now, maybe on loan from Machine Games for right now.
Maybe, yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's possible, but really it could be any three of them. It's probably Quake, but I think it
It
could be
could be quick.
Wolfenstein.
I think the Wolfenstein thing is actually a good call. I will say though, on the Wolfenstein thing, I feel like they came up with a lot of Wolfenstein games in the last decade. It really had a big resurgence, and they really started to
They dropped off, yeah.
decline in quality and just popularity. I think they started doing some interesting things. Not everyone was down for it. And maybe they're looking to change it up. Maybe they're going to give Wolfenstein a little bit of a break. I just think there was like a moment maybe a few years ago where we might have been like, well, obviously they're going to keep making we'll get the new Wolfenstein at some point, right? They're just going to keep making Wolfenstein sequels. But now I feel like how the way they've left the series lately, it kind of feels like maybe we might not be getting new Wolfensteins for a while. Maybe they want to shelve that for a little bit. Hard to tell. I will say, fun fact, by the way, my grandpa was a huge, he was actually probably like an original dev or something on Wolfenstein. I went into the attic recently and he had like I think he was a cosplayer. He had like a full Wolfenstein uniform. He had like a manual. It said like Mein Kampf on it. It was fucking crazy, dude. I think it was like a
Oh
original document from the
no.
game,
All right.
original design.
Okay,
So,
Paul, we might have to edit this part out. We'll talk after the podcast. I need to talk to you about something.
what? I didn't see his name in the credits, but I thought it was just
Yeah,
coincidence.
I'll explain later.
All right, cool. All right, let's move on. Talking about our final story of the day, a little bit unofficial, a little bit hush hush, but everyone out there, they're not being very secretive about it. Bloodborne's PS1, sort of, Demake is real. It's coming early next year. This is exciting. Now, they've been talking about this for a while now. It's a independent developer who's working on this. They're just a fan creating this as an unofficial demake, as they're calling it, because they're basically taking Bloodborne and remaking the beginning of it, not all of it, in like a PS1 kind of style. And man, it looks cool. We finally got the final trailer here, or like a release date trailer. We got a lot of footage of it. It looks super clean. And we got a release date, which is January 31st, 2022. Features the first few bosses from the game, includes up to Father Gascoigne. I've never played Bloodborne. For anyone that knows what that means.
Something French.
Yeah, it looks awesome. I never played Bloodborne, but although that is one of the I never played really any like Souls games, but I will say this Bloodborne looked like the one I'd play the most, and this looks so cool. They've done it so well to the point where if you told me that Bloodborne was a remake and this was the original, I'd believe you.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. It's sort of like there's some uncanny valley stuff going on.
Yeah,
like it reminds me of, you get these remakes or these remasters, and then you talk about like, oh yeah, this is how I remembered Crash Bandicoot looking, or Spyro looking, or Shadow of the Colossus looking, and then you go back and it didn't look anything like that. Well, this is like that, but the opposite. Like watching the trailer for this, I'm like, oh yeah, if I played this and then I played Bloodborne, like in the future as a remake, I would have thought the same exact thing.
Yeah. We're going a step further. It's like, oh, if this had come out first, I would have thought that this is what Bloodborne looked like back then.
Yeah, so that tells you that this is really well made.
This is so weird. This is such a weird project. I love it. I love that this PS1 style thing is coming back. Like this kind of graphic style. I think in some ways it's like we talked about this before. I like the original, like I like old school, very 8-bit graphics. I didn't love when people like do like kind of recapture that SNES kind of 16-bit graphic style. A little too blocky for me, but not blocky enough. I think there's like a middle ground. But there was a game we talked about in a review, and it was very much like Contra. And I just like, I don't want a game to look like that. You got to look smoother. And that's just, I don't know. There's something about this era though that just tickles me in the right way. And it's so cool. The gameplay is cool too. It almost feels like, you said like, oh, I look back in the game. I remember my games from the youth looking this good, and really they actually look like shit. This is like the gameplay equivalent of that. It's like, oh, you could play this and be like, oh man, I should play some other old PS1 games now that I played this. And I feel like the controls in the game would just feel like shit. And this is probably like, I feel like really tight in a way that modern gaming can do in a different way. And I think that's so cool to just kind of take the graphics of it, but maybe keep that control. I know I'm just speculating, but I think that seems really, really neat to take the best of and shove it into this weird style.
I think it's interesting going backward to the PS1 era, because I feel like there's a sense of hindsight there that can make the art look better. Whereas in the actual PS1 era, they were trying to make it look realistic. Whereas now, if you're going back emulating PS1 graphics, you're trying to do it stylized in a special artistic way. But back then, they were trying to make it look as real as possible, which really doesn't hold up now.
No, and that's the Grand Theft Auto thing too, right? It's like with this remake for Grand Theft Auto, instead they were trying to make it look as realistic as possible, and now going back, it does look like a PS2 game, but it looks like a PS2 game they've stylized to look look like a style in the PS2 style, and not necessarily the way they made it look, which in some ways doesn't hold up now. And that's different. I mean, you saw some mixed reporting on some mixed opinions on the GTA thing, but I think it's unequivocal that even though they didn't get across the same view of some characters, they don't look as realistic as they looked. The realistic looks were dated, and the stylized looks at least feel modern, even if they don't necessarily capture the same concept. And I think that's cool to be able to go back to those. And I think PS1 works better just because I think the age and that very distinct kind of I don't know, just that, like, I want to say like blocky, it's got a strange style to it that I think is about as far back as you can go until you start getting stuff with the GTA thing where it almost looked good enough. You're like, why bother?
Right.
I think that's a good era. Very interesting. Very interesting. All right. Well, we'll see if that actually comes out. I'm doubtful that it's actually going to release. We'll see. I hope they don't get like one of those awful cease and desists where it's like the day before it releases kind of thing. But
Don't blame us. Not enough people listen to this show. So
yeah, we're not affecting anyone here. I mean, I saw like every major game website report about this. So clearly, they're not trying to be super secretive about it. So we'll see. That looks cool. It's cool to see more projects like this. I'd love to see if devs let this happen, because clearly you're not going to like not buy Bloodborne because you play this, right? So, just go for it. Also, good thing, one last thing, that Elden Ring is going to be delayed till February now, because it gives people a little bit of time to play this. If you were interested, if you're a big From Software fan, you might have been in the midst of Elden Ring and never bothered with this, but now you can play this for a couple weeks while you're getting yourself hyped for Elden Ring, and it's kind of fun. So,
quick question. This has to only be on PC, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. I didn't look, but it has to be. There's no way. There's no way they got this like published on a console with like no rights or anything.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to be it for today's GG Replay. But before everyone heads home, well, I mean, hopefully you're home. I don't know what you're doing right now. You could be on the side of Mount Kilimanjaro. Well, before you descend, if you enjoy GG Replay and all of our other content on goodnightgroofs.com, like the Game Groofs podcast and our blog, and you're feeling super generous, please take a look at Patreon. We have a Patreon over at Patreon, if I said Patreon enough times, .com/goodnightgroofs. And you can see if any of our 3 current support tiers might interest you. The $3 plus tier will get you early access to our weekly podcast, Game Groofs. Normally it comes out on a Sunday. You could be listening on a Friday. And it did come out yesterday, by the way. So if you haven't listened to Game Groofs yet, get on over there right now. We had a Halloween spooktacular. It was Matt, myself, and Josh. We dressed up. We did Halloween games. It was a lot of fun. And you should definitely go listen or watch. At least, you know what? If you're going to listen to it, at least pop over to YouTube for like a second just to see our masks and like our weird outfits. And then you can go back to the audio version. Also, a reminder, if you're listening to this on a podcast app, which you surely are, that's a thing, right? Feel free to give this a 5-star rating, a thumbs up, a like, whatever it is on there. We really, really appreciate it. It takes about 5 or 10 seconds for you, but it makes our whole week. We really love it. We are seeing some more audience engagement recently, and that's awesome. We really love it. We encourage everyone to keep it up. It's awesome. It makes our whole week, I tell you. All right. Also, well, no, actually, that's it. That's good. That's it. Matt, do you have anything else to say before we head out of here for the day?
I'm just off to go explore a strategic alliance to create new strategic podcasts for Goodnight Groofs and establish a new next generation development environment with Microsoft. So
perfect. Awesome. Have fun. Matt, I'll show you some Azure Cloud software here. Actually, there's a few different tiers you might be interested in. All right. So for everyone at home, we'll see you back here on Wednesday. Don't forget to listen to Game Groofs, and good night, Groofs.
All right, Paul. So about that Wolfenstein memorabilia.